All right, everyone. How you doing today? Welcome to welcome to the first class of the spring semester, Audio MIDI 1, Copeland School of Music, 2023. So I've had a couple of you, three of you in other classes before, and then the rest of you, it's the first time that I've seen you. So I'm not at my normal space. My wife and I are down in Florida. We'll be back soon. And somebody just decided to do leaf blowing right now. So you can hear that, right? So I'm going to mute this and I'm going to play a track, and then hopefully they'll be done by the time we're done with this track. So let me do this. Okay, so they seem to be finished. So this is a track that I recorded in the fall and just released. And one of the things that I want to do with you this semester. Yeah, Jason, no problem. Just before we continue, as I wrote in the email, I'm making a screencast recording right now that I'll be posting up on YouTube, and I'll be sending the link out. But we'll talk more about that later. What part of this study is to learn how to listen into music, right? Now, there's a lot of music majors in this class this semester, which is more than I normally get, which is really great. So I'm going to ask a question. When you do ear training and study that discipline or sight singing, typically, what are the things that you do? Anybody want to venture an answer with that? Okay, ear training. The professor sits at a piano, plays a melody, and you write it out. Sight singing. They give you a piece of music and you sing it in solfege, or you just sing, whether it's fixed do or movable do, you sing with the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do syllables, right? And that's the bulk of ear training in music classes that on a typical university or college level. What we, as people who want to create music and work in this medium, whether you're working in Pro Tools, Logic, Cubase, Reaper, any of these pieces of software, you are sort of like a painter of sound. And as a painter of sound, you need to be able to listen into the aggregate of an entire piece of music and be able to pick out the individual parts as best you can. Sometimes they're hidden and they're hard to hear, but this is a skill that you need to do. So if I were to ask you, like, what do you listen to when you listen to a piece of music? What answer would you give? You could type it in if you want, or if you want to open your mic up and say something. What do you typically listen to? Songwriting. Okay, Georgie, good. Anybody else? Melody? Good, Cat?
Oh, I was going to say what the band is doing harmonically.
So you're listening to the chord progression.
Yeah.
and maybe how the pianist is voicing the chords and how the bass line fits in, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. These are all good things. Harmony, good, Hina. So different instrumentation, good, Daniel. Typically what I get is people listen to what they're interested in. So if you're a guitar player, you listen to the guitar. If you're a vocalist, you listen to the vocals. If you're a saxophone player, you listen to the saxophone. That's typically what people say when they are listening to music, right? And I think that you need to step back and learn how to listen to everything and focus in on individual elements. So everybody knows who John Coltrane is, one of the greatest musicians of the 20th century of all time. And I read an interview with him posthumously where he talked about how he studied a piece of music. He would get a recording, and let's say he got a recording by Sonny Rollins. He would he'd play the track, he'd listen to the whole track, and then he would play it over and over again, just listening to Sonny Rollins play the melody. And then once he's done playing the melody, he'd just go over and over again until he could sing along and hear all the inflections, all the articulations, all the embellishments, the kind of tonal variation that he did on the saxophone. Then he'd go back and he'd listen to the solo until he could sing the entire saxophone solo. And he'd go through every part of the instrumentation and the track and listen to how it all was put together. He'd listen to how the bass interacts with the drums, but he wouldn't just listen to the aggregate drums. He'd focus his ears in on the ride cymbal and the drum and how the hi-hat is on 2 and 4 and how all that fits together. Then he'd listen to the piano and how how the pianist, whoever he was, Richie Powell, if it was the Max Roach, Clifford Brown quintet or whatever it was group, he'd listen to how Richie Powell would be comping on the piano and how that would work with the bass and how that would fit in with the melody and all this stuff and just the rhythms and the chord voicings. And it's like a jigsaw puzzle. He'd listen to how all the pieces put together and how they created the aggregate whole. And that's one of the beauties of this study, which is different than when you're using notation. Notation software is like drawing a map, right? It'll show you how to get somewhere, but it doesn't take you on the trip. Doing this study is telling stories in sound. And you are the conductor. You're like the conductor of the train, the conductor of the orchestra. You're the orchestrator. You're the performer for what we're going to be doing this semester with MIDI, because you're going to be playing every part on all of your assignments. And so with this in mind, you need to be able to listen in to a piece of music. So let's go back to my track here and let's take a listen to this bit. And let me move this microphone because I hear I'm getting some plosives. All right, so here we go. So I'll take it from the top. And I have a drummer from Los Angeles on this named Eric Valentine, and Tom Barney is playing the bass. Tom has played with everybody from Miles Davis, Bette Midler, that's like everybody. He played with Sonny Rollins on thousands of recordings. He's a great guy. He's a good friend. And he's playing the bass on here. And I'm playing guitar, piano, keyboards. And I wrote this track. So let's just take a listen to the introduction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop just that little section. All right, so just those 4 bars, and try to pick out how many instruments you can hear and what names of those instruments are, okay? All right, so name. So what part of the drum kit is playing? Well, how about that? There's drums here, right?
The hi-hat?
Correct, just the hi-hat. So I'll solo the drums. So listen to how he's playing that also, right? So if you just listen to how he's playing it, is he going tick, 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 tick? He's playing eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and listen to how he's playing it, right? So he's emphasizing beats 2 and beat 4 by accenting them. And then between the first measure, let's see. Between measures 2 and 3, he does an open hi-hat, right? Okay, great. So then, is there another, let's listen to everything. Pick out another percussion instrument. Anybody venture a guess?
Congas?
Correct. So let's take a listen to the congas. Right? And let's listen to how the congas fit in with the drums. So you hear how the congas are playing around with the accented note on the hi-hat and how that all works together, right? It's really locks together beautifully. Okay, so then pick out another instrument. Let's listen to everything. Guitar. Okay, Georgie, great. So let's solo the guitar and you tell me, is it one guitar or what? Two. Very good. So I'll play the, is this the left or the right? Let's see. I'll play the right, if you guys are getting this in stereo. So just that you know, the screencasts that I make have much better video than Zoom and much better audio than Zoom. All right. So if you want to, you know, most of the students over the past 2.5, 3, this is going into 3 years of doing this and I've gotten better at it. They really enjoy the review videos because they can stop and, you know, forward. I'll put chapters so you can navigate quickly and you can hear it better too. That's the other thing. So let's listen to the right side guitar. So now can you pick out how many notes I'm playing at a time? Two. Very good. Daniel, excellent. And then who else said 2? Was that you, Hina? Excellent. That's exactly right. And then notice how this is the other guitar that's going to be on the left side. Right? So notice how that's in a different octave than the other guitar. And how they work together, they're complementary rhythms. And then I'm not sure any of you will be able to, suss this out, but am I playing with a pick or am I using my fingers on my right hand?
Fingers?
Fingers, right, because it's got a soft attack. And see, these are the kinds of things that you should be able to eventually, maybe not today, some of you, but if you work at it, you'll be able to hear this stuff, right? And it increases your knowledge. When you, oh yeah, I want that's fingers, and you know what that sound is. And then when you eventually are recording other musicians, you can have a conversation with them. Can you try that with your fingers or try that with a pick, right? It's different sounds, different moods, different emotions. Okay, that's great. So now let's listen to how that fits in with the percussion, the conga. And the drums. Okay, now let's listen to everything again, the whole band, and see what other sounds you can pick out. Is there a bass guitar?
No.
Correct. Not yet. Okay. There's drums, there's percussion, there's guitar. There's no bass. What else is in a rhythm section? What are the food group?
Keys?
Keyboards.
Correct. So there's keyboards. So let me solo the keyboards. I can't believe I don't have those in a folder. Okay. And you'll tell me how many keyboards there are. Correct. That's almost right. 3. So whoever said 3 is correct, Daniel. Very good. Okay, so let me show you what I'm doing here. So I have this sound. Which is a Fender Rhodes piano. Now, is there something going on with that sound that's a little different than a pure sound?
Sounds like there's like a tremolo or
correct. Right. So Rhodes suitcase. There's like a Rhodes piano has 2 basic models: the stage model, which has regular metal legs on it, and then a suitcase model, which is where the keyboard sits on top of an amplifier, and that's stereo, and that has a built-in ping pong vibrato, right? Depending upon the era. So if it's like a late 60s. Mid to late 60s to early 70s, it's a tremolo where it's just the volume getting softer and louder. And then if it's maybe after 73 or so, it becomes a ping pong where it goes back and forth, right? So, I mean, I grew up in that era. I was a young teenager at that time in the early 70s. And I owned those instruments, so I know them very well. And I still own a Rhodes right now. So, right, there's a tremolo on that. And so now this... See how that fits in like a glove with the rhythm guitar? Okay. Then there's this track here. Right? So this is, the Rhodes complemented the 2-note guitar part and this electric keyboard sound. So this is orchestration, right? So this is orchestration. So that is making what I call an aggregate sound with the other guitar. Right, those 2 sounds together, it's an aggregate sound, and they're playing the same part. But what's cool about this other electric piano sound, here when I stop it, there's something that goes on afterwards. Right, there's echo, delay, and that delay is rhythmically timed with the track. It's in sync with the track, and that gives you an added dimension of rhythm to the simple part that I'm playing there. And what that does is that not only works with the guitar, but that also works with the hi-hat. Right? And it also adds an atmosphere where everything is sort of dreamy. And then there's, you know what I mean? It sort of adds like an etherealness to it. And then there's one other sound right here. Right? That's almost like a 1980s synth. So if let's see, get these 4 tracks. So if I listen all the keyboards together. And that's, you know, a big, we're going to get into Pro Tools today. I'm going to go through how to set up and show you the basic package of it. But this is a big part of what this class is about, is getting your ears and your mind used to these kinds of concepts. You know, those of you that are music majors, if you're in the graduate students, which I believe there are 3 or 4 in this class, if you're in taking Mike Mossman's arranging class, you're writing big band charts in Sibelius or Finale, and you're hearing things played back, right? But there are things that I'm going to be showing you about how to proofread in Pro Tools your parts that you come up with that are directly relatable to how you compose, right? So what do I mean by that? Okay. So we're taking it here from the bridge, right? So this is my piano. And the bass, right? You don't hear anything unusual, anything weird. Everything fits in, right? All the parts that I wrote, because I wrote the bass part out, he played 90% of what I wrote much better than I wrote it. And then there's 10% that he came up with that was just really great. So there's that. And then let's say you take the rhythm guitars in that section and you take the electric piano. See, they fit together. They're playing complementary stuff. They're not clashing with each other. I don't want that kind of a sound. If I wanted the sound to clash, I would certainly write some dissonance in there, but I didn't do that. And then if we add the bass to that, you can hear that they're all anticipating the downbeat a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Right. That's a. So you can hear that they're all working together, and that's, you know, when you're working on a piece of music, you will be able to solo the different sections and hear how they fit in with each other. Let's go back to the screen here. So let's go to later on after this track is the piano solo, and we're going to take a listen to the bridge, right? One more time with the bridge. Okay, so let's break out some instruments. So we'll start from the bottom up and we'll listen to the bass. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So he's anticipating the beat. Right? So every one of those notes he's playing is a little bit, it's an eighth note before the downbeat. So how does that fit in with the electric piano? See how they fit in really tightly together? There's not sloppy. So now there's 3 guitar parts there. So let's listen to how those all work together. So there's 1 octave guitar. So that's this one here. And there's a 2nd octave guitar. Playing them, right? And then there's a melody guitar. Right, so that's just doubling the octave there. Let's just doubling it with just a little bit different tone. So that all works together, right? With and there's the piano, doubling those octave guitars with a little fill, right? And so you see that I'm doubling and tripling notes with different timbres to come up with, that's orchestration. And then the drums are playing a much different beat there. They're very spacious. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2. Boom, boom. So there's no kick drum on the downbeat, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, bum. So you see how all this stuff works together and fits together. So you really want to learn how to start listening into sound. So let's close this guy out. Any questions on any of this stuff? And we have everybody in class today. We're missing just one person. Okay, great. I have to keep track of that because I have to fill in a thing to make sure that everybody's here. I think it's in 2 weeks I have to do that. So let's close this. Now, one of my favorite groups is Steely Dan for a number of reasons. Not just because it's boomer music, but because they did something that I think is very unusual, is that they developed, and over the last 2 or 3 albums that they put out in the mid 70s to the early 80s or late 70s, they had an incredibly beautiful synthesis of fusing jazz harmonies into pop music. On top of that, the sound of the recording is still considered today, like the album Aja, AJA, the way that was recorded is still considered to be one of the best examples of analog recording in a recording studio. They had great players, great studios, and a great engineer who knew how to mic things up, and everybody knew exactly what they were supposed to play because all the musicians in the band were studio musicians, and they were jazz musicians as well. Give me 1 second here. So one song that I like to use is the song from Aja called Black Cow. So let's take a little bit of a listen to this. Okay, so what I want to talk about with this is a few things. Let me get the... Okay, so that should take up most of your laptop screen right now. So, well, let me go back a little bit. So this is the personnel over here, right? We got Donald Fagen on the vocal. He and the guitar. They had a guitar player. It was the two of them. I'm having a brain freeze on the guitar player.
Walter Becker.
Thank you very much. He just passed away a couple of years ago, and it's really weird because I have friends who were in Steely Dan for a while. Anyway, Tom Barney was in Steely Dan for quite a while. So Donald Fagen, songwriter, wrote the vocals with Walter Becker. I think they probably wrote the song together. Larry Carlton played the guitar. Larry Carlton, one of the biggest studio guitarists of the 1970s. And this was recorded like in 75, about 1975. Victor Feldman, great vibes player who played electric piano on here. He played with Miles Davis back in the 60s on a couple of recordings. Joe Sample, incredible pianist. He's playing clavinet. A clavinet is it's kind of like a harpsichord with pickups in it. In other words, or a clavichord. When you push down on the keys, it's a keyboard. Instead of having a hammer that hits strings or plucks a tine, it's got a hook that pulls down on a string, and it creates a really snappy sound, and it's also touch sensitive. And then Chuck Rainey on bass, Tom Scott, tenor sax, a brass section, and some female backup vocals. So these are all people that dominated the recording studios in Los Angeles in the 1970s. And they just know how much music to play. Now, when you're conceiving of listening to music, there are 4 things that I want you to think about. And they are volume, from soft to loud, pitch, from low to high, panning, from left to right, and space, from front to back. So volume, soft to loud, pitch, low to high, panning, left, center, right, where is it? And space, front to back. So in other words, if you were at LeFrak Hall and you were sitting in the back of the hall, something that played on the stage would sound different than you were from the front of the stage. Or if you were in the stage and you were listening to something acoustically, something in the back of the group would sound different spatially than something that's in the front of the stage, right? And so we manipulate some of these things inside the computer nowadays. In the recording studio, like if you record an orchestra, they will have different mic perspectives in the recording space. And I'm going to show you an example of that to give you like the real distance. But we use digital means to achieve similar effects, which we'll get into later in the semester. All right. So with this piece, right, what I've got here is a graph that I made, and we're just dealing with 2 of these parameters, low to high and left to right or center. So if we listen to the track, we have the low pitch is the kick drum and the bass guitar, right? Let's see. Here we go. Let me see if I can do something here to make that a little bit more obvious. So you can, that sounds weird, but you can hear the bass drum and the bass guitar, right? And they're panned in the center. Okay, great. Then on the right, and you guys should be hearing this in stereo because the original sound is on if you've got earbuds. But on the right, you've got the clavinet, and on the left, you've got the clean rhythm guitar. Bling is in the left ear. The clavinet should be in the right ear. And then there should be, that chord is in the left. Now, if I were to split this into mono and just solo the right, all right, pan that in the middle. You can hear that clavinet, right? But you're also hearing some of the guitar. Yee, that high note, right? Now, just remember that you had some sort of semblance of the guitar in the right, along with the clavinet. You'll hear the bass and the drums because they're panned in the center. Now, if I just pan what's on the left, you're hearing the full guitar and something that sounds like the clavinet, but it's a little unusual. Right? And the guitar sounds like it's right in your face, like it's really close. So what they're doing here, if we would listen to both tracks together, the left and the right. You've got the clean guitar in the left ear, and they've got it going into some sort of reverb, whether it's a chamber, a spring reverb, or something, but they've got that panned to the right. The clavinet is on the right, but the reverb for the clavinet is on the left, right? So when if you really listen, you can hear that. And these are the kinds of details to pick up. And one of the reasons I picked this song is because everything is so clearly recorded and there's not a lot of instruments playing right now. So you can really pick out these details. Now, there's a crash cymbal and some hi-hats. Those are high-pitched sounds. So that's all in the center, where they don't have a big pan on the drums. Like, in other words, the drums aren't spread out very wide. Like, the hi-hat's a little bit in the right ear, but not like way far in the right. Okay. So the first 4 bars, the guitar's playing that little 2-note riff, and then it goes down to playing those 3-note chords. In the corner of my eye. Now, the vocal comes in right here. In the corner of my eye. The vocal is right in the center, and that's sort of like mid-range of pitch, right? So lead vocal in the center. But we're going to listen because the reverb for the lead vocal is in the right speaker. So let's take a listen to that. So let me solo the right when the vocal comes in. In the corner of my eye. You can hear after he finishes singing, the sound lingers on, right? And that's different than what we would hear on the left. In the corner. Very dry. I saw you in Rudy's. You were very high. Now, in the corner of my eye, I saw you in Rudy's. You were very high. You were high. Now, on the words "you were high," you notice that there's some background vocals there, right? You got the lead vocal in the center, right? But they've taken the chorus vocals and they've doubled them, and they panned one on the left and one on the right. So you've got this big, like the lead vocal here, and then harmony vocals and harmony vocals. So you get this big spread, and it sounds very powerful. Doubling of vocals happens all the time. I believe the Beatles were the first of that, and we'll listen to that later in the semester, to do things like that. You were very high. You were high. Right? So if we just solo the left. You were very high. You and then the same people on the right. So you could see how everything is meticulously planned out, you know? And it's very clear and clean. And then as you go through the piece, just notice how simple the rhythm section is. Right? You got the guitar going, we are, from the 6th to the 5th in the top line, or the 13th to the 5th, whatever you want to call it. Sort of like a blues T-Bone Walker thing. We are. But the bass is just doing boom, boom, boom. The drums are very simple. Now, the second time through, the clavinet is doubling with that little bluesy guitar, that we are, in the right ear. And also, if we listen to that without the vocal, you can hear that the electric piano is also playing that kind of rhythm. They're all doing way up, wap, up, way up. And the guitar is on the left, the clavinet's on the right, electric piano's in the center. So you've got, it's almost like different sections of a big band reduced down in size. Now, let's listen to the... I want to go to the second verse. That it's over now. Drink your big black cow and get at it. Looking so outraged. Right, so here we go. The second verse. Got brass comes in, right? Looking so outraged. Panned in the center. Still in the center. So like right there. Okay. Right, they've got some of the brass now in the center and they've got other brass in the right. So let's listen to just... And then the that line here, there's brass in the center. There's another brass section in the right, and then there's another brass section now in the left ear. So you see how, like, as this song is unfolding, there's an incredible amount of detail being placed on, or being paid attention to, not just on the song and the melody and the lyrics, but the placement in the stereo field of the sound and the unfolding of the arrangement. And all of this is in the service of telling the story of the song, right? And as some of you who've had classes with me before know that I'm a film composer, right? I've only been teaching for the past 11 years, and I'm an old man. And I spent most of my adult life as a professional musician in the city, playing Broadway shows, playing recording studios, playing in the Radio City Orchestra, piano and keyboards. And also, while I was doing that, I was writing music for films and television. So everything about my professional life has had music in the service of telling a story. And it's led me to the conclusion that that's the most important thing about any kind of art, is what kind of story it tells. And how you deploy the tools of the trade, the technology, your musical ability, the kinds of how much musical vocabulary you have, and the type of performance that you can capture to all be in service of telling a story. And that's what people want to do. They want to be entertained with a story. Even if you're at a dance club hearing dance music, people are being entertained by the story that of what's going on in the dance place while they're, hearing Four on the Floor with the kick drum at levels loud enough to deafen them in 5 minutes. So, okay. So with that in mind, this is going to be your first assignment. All right. In our class folder on OneDrive, and you should all be able to access that. If you can't access it, let me know, and I will send out a direct link for the class materials. You've got class 1, and you've got a folder that says music for blueprinting. Okay, so you're going to download that folder. It's filled with a bunch of MP3s. And there's music here from people you know and people you don't know. So there's Radiohead. There's Sarah McLachlan. There's Quincy. There's the band. Oh, Cassandra Wilson, sorry. Playing a song by the band. David Crosby, who just passed away, sadly. This is a recent piece of his. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. There's this song by Earth, Wind, and Fire. So the other thing, too, is that some of this stuff might get blocked. So I'm going to probably... We'll see. I don't know if this stuff will get blocked. But there's a bunch of different music by... It's Bruce Springsteen, Stevie Wonder... Taylor Swift, me. Oh, there's Daft Punk, Beach Boys, Paul Simon. What I want you to do is I want you to take one of these songs and I want you to not draw a graph like I did there, but I want you to get right on a PDF timestamp. So like at 00 intro. So for example, if I was going to do Black Cow, right? At 00:00 intro, there's drums, bass, guitar, and keyboard. The guitar is panned to the left, the keyboard is panned to the right, and just that, all right? And go through the whole song and make a diary of that song. Make a blueprint of what's going on, right? And basically what we're dealing with here is you hearing the instrumentation, being able to pick it out, and where is it in the stereo field. And if you want to add a couple of adjectives, don't give me music theory adjectives. Simple guitar chords. The piano gets a little funky here. You know, the piano is playing a similar pattern as the guitar, right? Adjectives. So because I've got students in this class that are not music majors, I don't want them saying stuff like it's the 5 of 5 of 5 of flat 6 chord going to the dominant. You know, so yeah, just let's keep it in adjectives. And I think that that's also good practice because you want to be able to explain this people to layperson, right? You don't want to blind them with your technical facility. I mean, it's not Shankerian analysis. So, and go through the whole song and on a PDF. Okay. And then you'll upload that PDF. You don't email me assignments. In our class folder, there is assignments and assignments for class 1. You'll just drag your PDF into here, upload.